All right.
Oh, hi,
We are starting this June 9th meeting of the Durham Housing Task Force. I'm a little congested today. I just got back from a cruise. I have been home less than 12 hours.
Pardon me,
Sorry.
Sally, could you turn your microphone towards you, please?
Yes, there you go.
Where'd you go?
We went to the Bahamas and that area. It was very nice.
Wow.
Yeah. My body is saying, where is the sauna? Where is the steam room? Why are you making me walk
Why do I have
around?
to come back to this?
Why is it 60 degrees out?
Where's the climbing wall?
Where's the mimosa? What's
Where's the
going
ice skating?
on?
Where's the ice skating rink?
Where's Samir, my waiter? He knows everything about me. he knows, well, you can read my mind. Yes.
Where's
oh.
that custard at 1 in the morning?
Anyways, all right, enough of that, but I have my fancy coat. So we are going to call this meeting to order. We actually have a quorum, which is excellent because we do need to get some things done and moved along. So I'm going to start with our Michael over here.
Mike Mulhern.
Paul Rasmussen.
Michael Barron, Town Planner.
Sally Tobias.
Al Holland.
Heather Grant.
All right, and do we have any public comments? I don't see any. We don't have anybody on Zoom, do we?
Negative.
Okay, great. We have no public comments, seeing unless they're the invisible people that sometimes want to talk. Approval of minutes. We have a lot of minutes.
And they're all just one page.
Yeah, they're
The
pretty
ones from May
basic.
12th are notes, but you can approve them as well. They're
Yeah, we'll approve
no
them as
quorum.
notes. Anything? There a motion to?
Any modifications?
Well, I don't think I was here for the May 12th.
Okay,
Just
so, we'll-
So I'll
If I were-
move
is it
that
May
we
12th I wasn't here
accept the
for?
minutes and notes of March
3,
Third.
Oh,
3rd,
March 3rd.
17th, April 14th, and May 12th.
okay, and then you can just, so,
Do
Abstain.
you want to just do the first three?
Well, or Heather,
And then we
Heather,
vote on those.
you could,
Okay.
Heather, you could vote on the whole motion, but abstain from May 12th.
Okay, why don't we do it that way? Because I did listen, so, I mean,
Yeah.
there is
all
something there.
right. So, we have a second?
Second.
All right. All right, so we all in favor of approving the minutes of March 3rd, March 17th, April 14th, and May 2nd with any necessary changes as far as your presence?
Yeah, I would, so I approve except for the May 12th, which I was
Okay, so-
unable to.
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, with one abstention from May 12th.
And I'm
Oh, you were-
abstaining from March 17th because I
Okay.
was not here.
March 17th, okay, good. Do we have reports from committee members? We don't have any of our advisors here.
Planning board, planning board,
Is our advisor?
planning board's kind of, has been busy. Sorry, that like keeps, we currently, let's see, we sent back to town council a couple of amendments that we had suggested to them for, actually all three now that have been, that we sent to the town council for advancement are back in the hands of the town council now. Planning board did make a couple of recommendations. The big one was a comment that we made with regards to the 3-story limit one, where we're removing it. And we suggested that perhaps the planning board and town council look at forming a subcommittee to identify lots in the downtown or central business districts, which we can pre-approve for 5 levels. I mean, really, and my thought on that is, if we're already building, and this should be really a talking point, right? If we're already controlling building height, what does the number of levels matter? Right?
Yeah.
That's the biggie. You got building height, which we're controlling. Who cares whether they fit 4 stories or 5 stories under it?
True. Because it could involve.
Doesn't make sense.
But what happens underneath the roof matters, right? Do we want 5 stories worth of apartments?
Well, there are some lots on that main area that
Not
have,
allowed in that zone. You can
I'm
only
trying to get
do,
my head around
the-
this.
the-
we're
we
talking
don't
about-
allow pure residential in central business.
This
center.
is way too easy. I can't get my head around this.
I'll even make it even easier. You know, whenever you do a tour of Exeter and you go into your commercial zones, the first thing that their town planner always did would pull out the tax assessment card. And what you're looking to do is, in that commercial zone, maximize your value for sure.
Yeah.
Because the thing I've heard over and over again is about property taxes. And so if you have any hope of controlling your property taxes, you want to maximize your, it's mixed use, you want to maximize the value. So
Yeah.
whatever fits under there, who cares? I agree with Paul.
And in some of those cases, like under where Young's, well, Clark's and Hayden Sports, that area, they actually, all the property that Hayden Sports owns, Roger Hayden has a basement. He can put parking under there. He has plenty of room under there to actually establish parking for any building he put up. So it's got some good potential for residential as far, and any commercial.
So, sorry, I'm a little late. My car wouldn't start. I wouldn't recognize my key.
Could she turn her microphone?
Oh,
Yep.
microphone.
There you
That
go.
wasn't worth hearing. So maybe you can lay out for me, unless it's too tedious,
Well, we're just
the
doing.
difference between the height and, so we're talking about maybe a gable roof, or what are we trading off here or not?
Well, we're going to let the developer work within our architectural standards.
Right.
So we're not deciding what it's going to look like here. We're just saying how high it can be. Give him some more flexibility to make it more profitable, so they can actually do it.
So this isn't like the Chrysler building where they have a big spire on top, or,
No, it is not like the Chrysler.
Not looking for decorative.
It is not.
for Rentable.
But this is something that's, it's in the town council's hands right now.
right,
Yeah.
right, okay.
Right, and the planning board has started work on the conservation subdivision. They will be continuing work on that in our next few meetings. So that's so that's the planning board report.
All right.
Do we, I was interested in what that is looking like. What, do we have any documents of what the conservation subdivision changes are proposed to be?
Yeah,
And have this gone through this body?
No, it's
Going through
concentrating.
the planning board. It's
But have
starting-
we-
It's starting with the planning board.
So we haven't had any input into it?
No.
No, and we kind of moved it onto the planning board instead of us dealing with it, because it gets very, there's a lot to it.
the planning board's going to chew on it. So right now,
Yeah.
all the planning board has done as a whole so far is looked at the presentation of the new draft. It's going to require a lot of chewing, a lot of.
Maybe some baking.
And at this point, I have no idea what its final draft form is what its final form will look like.
And
But
we
you can
just,
tune
they
in to
were
watch the
working on it,
meetings when
didn't
they
they work on it
discuss.
for about 2 years? It's been about 2 years, I think, right?
That?
Yeah,
No,
has it?
No.
No, because this is something I've written just this year.
We just
The
started, yeah.
draft, I started work on the draft back in January.
For
The re-
conservation?
This is
Conservation
revised, so
subdivision.
his is revised, like kind of more condensed and less pervious space.
We haven't changed the conservation subdivision.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
regs
was
since
thinking of the
2010.
conservation
Oh.
submittal to us of an update of the provisions within the conservation.
Yeah, the
So-
You're thinking
conservation.
So I'm thinking
You're
of two
thinking of
different
the
things,
wetlands
sorry.
thing,
Yeah.
The wetlands thing,
The
So,
same thing happened to me.
yeah.
This may be the appropriate time to bring this up since we're talking about the planning board, but I met somebody at the transfer station where we all scurry and get into our cars and run, but often in error, never in doubt. But the gist of the conversation was that with all of these zoning changes and everything, aren't we having a charrette why is it that the first thing?
Charrettes are for the master plans, they're not
Oh,
for
but,
zoning ordinances.
you know, what she meant,
Because-
why aren't we having a public discussion about these? That it seems very abrupt to all of a sudden find out about things and to get some public input at a planning board hearing.
Well, I'll start with my
And from my
personal
conversation
Right,
with
right.
her,
opinion. It's,
let me just, I want you to
She's-
know I defended myself.
I've had that same conversation, I know exactly who you're talking about,
Live to tell the tale.
all right?
Right.
And the thing is this town has not passed one useful piece of legislation based on a charrette. Nothing that's ever been used. Anything a charrette has passed has been a way to stop everything
Oh, that's
and not get
insane.
anything done.
Yeah, it's,
That's
well,
why
that
it's
was-
for the master plan. You use a charrette to create
guide
the
you.
overriding goals, not to create your final
Right.
legislation.
Well, of course, that came up too, that all these zoning changes are in violation of
Well-
the master plan. I said,
Which is-
things have changed.
Which is not
Which is,
true.
that's wrong.
That's wrong. They actually
That's
are.
wrong.
Yeah.
The irony
In
of
fact, the
She had
planning,
been there.
go back to the last planning board meeting, Richard Kelly was going through the master plan and saying, yeah, this checks, this. He had a dozen different checkpoints, that says
Good
this
for
goes
him.
with the master plan.
the
So
thing is,
anybody who's saying, what they're doing is they found one thing in the master plan that it doesn't agree with, and they're going to try to use that to stop the whole thing, even though it hits 12 other
Now,
points.
don't get upset. I mean, it took a lot for me to not get upset.
Don't
through
let the
this whole
Viking come out,
conversation.
Paul.
But anyway, so I think that the point is interesting.
Yeah.
That, because they are, there's a lot of false
picture of the
information
internet.
going on around, not just from this source. And I think people need to understand that there are things that we're doing because the state is requiring it. It's not that we're grabbing the bull by the horns and forcing the town
Right.
abruptly into something that the town doesn't want with very little input. And I think, I was explaining to this hapless soul that, that there are things in there that we would not have brought in at this stage in the game if the state weren't forcing it. I think people, because people are really mad that some of them feel they're being blindsided, a lot of them feel they don't understand it, it's kind of, they're imagining the worst. You know that out there in the rural zone, I'm going to have a population of lodging houses,
for sure.
because it's by right.
Yeah.
So I think that it's
But you're on
time,
3 acres.
I think that it's time that we had a conversation that is outside the purview of a planning board hearing, where we can just all talk around it, about it, and bring in what the state is doing, bring in some of the criteria, like how we define affordable, some of our efforts to try to deal with the student thing, and the fact that we keep running into legal problems as we try to, because I think that people also have to know that we've been really struggling with a lot of these issues, and they're just seeing what came out, the end of the meat grinder. They're not understanding that we were taking into account a lot of these concerns of theirs. Of course, there is the fact that we that we sprang this on the town at the just when everybody's going on vacation, and heaven help
Well-
us when the students are out of town. But
Well, I
I
think.
just, you
Yeah,
get what I'm saying.
I get, first of all, I think that, I hear what you mean, and I can understand. I think a lot of people feel threatened by zoning changes in this town. They're concerned.
Everywhere.
They're looking at the way it always was, and they don't realize that the conditions on the ground are not the same as they were in
They
1980.
need to understand that.
They are, yeah, they need to, and then if we wanted to create some kind of casual sit and answer questions, but the reality is, none of this is being sprung on anyone.
Yeah.
This has been a long process that has
It's the
been.
slowest spring ever.
Yeah, it
But
is-
they
Years,
don't see that.
years.
Well, I think that they should understand
I
that.
think even Todd has brought that up. You know, when you
And
look
then-
at the
yeah.
public hearings, not just at the planning board, but at the town council.
And
There's been plenty.
There is, yeah, there is.
And there's the things
Yeah.
that you did in terms of,
And- And there is
communications and.
There's criticism
But I
of the
don't
housing
think that-
task force, but hold on. There is criticism of the housing task force and concern, but where are they? There is a point where this is our public process. Our meetings, we have public comment right there. We have public process built into all of this. And if they wait and they see it and they don't understand it, then they're going to have to go back and do, or they could, we're a small town. Any one of those people could email Michael or email any of us and say, I don't understand what's going on, could I sit with you? And I'm like, yeah, I'll sit and have coffee with you and we'll talk about it. But you can't say we're doing this out of nowhere and
no.
we're coming, because it is not. This has been going on for years.
Yeah, you would have been
And-
proud of me. That's just what I said. They're open, they're on DCAT.
Yeah.
And
Just have
then
to
we
put
get
some
into
time
the,
in
I'm
it.
sorry.
No, I'm saying congratulations.
I thought you were saying, let's get down to
I'm
business
applauding,
here.
I'm applauding.
No, but,
Yeah.
and then it
That's the
morphed
German
into
way.
this conversation, a much broader conversation about the
You're afraid.
communications.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to find out about these meetings by going to the town and looking at the bulletin board. I mentioned something
how
about
else
Kinda,
the
yeah.
Friday updates.
Friday
Yeah.
Updates have done it. And if we had a charrette, we would announce it through the public website and through Friday Updates. We don't have any other way. I'm not going to, do they want us to go around and knock on every door and talk to
Yes.
every person? We have a public process, and I think that they're feeling out of control. And if any of them want to sit and ask, we can sit and go through it and explain bit by bit if they want. I'll sit there and talk to them about it and show them the process and why. And I've got every meeting here, and so there's a lot going on. And never mind what's going at the planning board.
I think my feeling in the middle of this was, I've got to stop feeling defensive of
Yes.
everything that we have done and how tedious it has been, and how, we've tried to think of all of their answers. I had to stop being defensive and start listening to her.
Yeah.
I would never have, what is this housing task force? Every once in a while, a great while, it's mentioned in the Friday updates. And we're not, exactly sure, how much of the zoning is coming from us and how much, it was very tangential, so why go to a meeting? But as I listened, I realized for someone who isn't really clued in, that it does seem to be coming, all of a sudden, something's coming to the planning board that is alarming. And I think that we should be handling the public process better. And I think when we bring in zoning changes in particular, particularly ones that they're imagining changing the look of the downtown dramatically, that we really ought to provide an opportunity for the public to hear the whys, hear the effects, just so that
Well-
we're,
So at-
They'll have that at the town
at the-
council.
At the
Remember when that's going to be.
one final public hearing that the town council has had so far, almost all the same people that talked to the planning board
came.
came, all but one, and said exactly the same thing. They were universally against. It passed.
Because
Because the needs of the town and the desires of these
a small group.
small,
The SWAT group.
the SWAT are totally misaligned. And that's what they're grappling with at this point is the fact that I think, leadership in town and all has had come to the realization that
Oh, don't
what
say
our
it.
needs, that we have to really focus on the long-term goals of the need and needs of the town, as opposed to the desires of these other folks who are against it.
That letter that Todd forwarded to us from that guy who said, there's there's a group of the old timers who want everything the
Oh,
same.
Peter Murphy's.
Yeah.
And,
Except tax rate. They don't
except
do
what?
that. Except for taxes. It's ironic because the thing that people will complain about is they want everything the same.
But
But
not
then
paid.
they are like, well, and then they get their tax bill and they're like, oh, I don't like that. So I don't like that to be the same. Or not, I want it
Like, why
to
are
be
my
like it
taxes
was in
going up?
1950.
Yeah.
And it's,
And-
why is
and
it
There's
not?
also the ones that say, I don't mind paying for that. But
Yes.
they obviously have more income than some of us.
Yeah.
So there's that as well. I'd love this added service and I'm willing to pay for it. Well,
But will they
just
be?
because you are doesn't mean the other,
Yeah.
another
And-
1,000 people in town would rather not have anything go on
well, see,
either
that's
because
why
of.
we have to have a conversation, because we don't know
See,
whether,
I think
what to
that-
take for,
Well, we-
my dumb conversation, does that, how many people does
I
that
mean-
represent?
We could put together
no,
for
not
this
much.
next batch, and we could maybe even some for the, a sheet that explains the reasonings. You know, one of us wanted to volunteer to do this, a couple of us try to.
I would
And
just-
put a short, why is this happening together, and then people will read it, and it will explain the reasonings behind it. Maybe a short little blurb about how long, but I'm willing to bet that even with that, the comments would not change and the concerns would not change. And we
Because they
would
just
still
changed
get
the
yes,
reason.
but because they want to sit down and come up with it all themselves.
Well, that,
And that is not, but that is, first of all,
Not a single one
Could've.
of them has an economic background.
well, the other
And
thing
they're-
is
and
that
they're-
we'd have the same little group of people. But,
They're the
I'm just trying to at least show that we have a willingness
I'm
to be
perfectly-
more
yep.
open. And I
Well,
think giving people
I
a
don't know how
piece
more
of
open.
paper, it can look very self-serving and very defensive. But just, I don't think there'd be any harm to it. And
just like a cover letter to explain why
no,
this
I
is
mean,
happening.
any harm to having a meeting.
No, I mean, I've tried to, honestly, I completely agree with everything you're saying. It's not just Durham, by the way.
No.
There's a lot of fear right now. I mean, we've made a really significant shift at the state level in how we're dealing with housing. Before, I mean, we spent nearly $8 million in housing opportunity grants, and it really was designed to empower municipalities to look at your zone, look at your needs, look at your zoning, pass ordinances to try to deal with it, and there was money to try to get you over the curve to do development. And we've now gone literally 180 degrees from that. Like, the money has been shut off. Rather than what I think would have been the next logical step, which would have been like, we had 98 communities who have participated in the housing opportunity grants. They've passed ordinances. Let's look at the list of what were the common themes that came out of that. And I mean, I can think of 3 off the top of my head that I think of. The first is like ADUs. We know they work everywhere. Let's do it. 2, you just discussed it, commercial zones. We know mixed-use commercial works everywhere. And we know that maximizing the value of your commercial zones is really good to stabilize your tax rate. And it adds vibrancy that everybody wants.
Right.
3 is manufactured housing. There is an immense, and you've already just brought it up, there is a lot of fear in housing, and there's a lot of stigma in housing, and it still exists in 2025.
And there's a lot of bigotry.
Yeah, so that's like manufactured house. You know, people say, no, I don't want to, oh my God, don't put a manufactured house there, even though it meets code, water, sewer, it's affordable.
It's attractive.
So it's like, but that it's not just manufactured housing, it's recovery houses, it's lodging houses, it's a lot. So there's a lot of stigma and fear that's preventing us from implementing the kind of housing that we need to do. So right now it's just a weird time because so the state has reacted rather than empowering the municipalities to say, okay, here's some money, go figure this out, work on your zoning. You know, zoning is only a small piece in the overall economic development, the money that goes along. They're saying, okay, we're mandating all of these ideas.
Requiring it.
And so I think that's created a lot of tension. I definitely have seen it in Concord, especially like House Bill 84, where we essentially like did lot sizes. We zoned essentially the entire state in that. So I think there was a heavy pushback, you know, and everyone's talking local control, local control, local. And I'm like, do you even know what that means? You know, do you know what local zoning is, local control, how it works effectively? How do we invest millions and millions and millions of dollars and not learn anything? So it's a weird time. So that's my.
There's a-
I think that one of the important things to keep in mind is that we've come off of like 20 years of fear where the goal was zero growth. In
Yeah.
reality, 20 years ago, half the state passed zero growth ordinances.
40 years ago.
And you can't do that. You've gone 40 years and not provide, and now we have 1% housing vacancy rates, which is vastly unhealthy.
Very expensive, low
And
quality
until we
housing.
get back, and it's going to be painful until we get back to that 5% vacancy rate. And the way to do that is to open up the spigots. I mean, and the people have been, it's exactly, it's like, well, don't open it up to a fire hose. Well, then you should have opened it up to a trickle a while ago. The longer you delay opening it up, the faster people are going to take it out of your hands and just let it go wild. So
I have
we're that's why I'm trying to, with my conservation subdivision thing, I tried to walk that line between going wild like the state would have us do and still
Pull it in.
and still maintain our rural aspects.
Yeah.
In our natural areas.
And I think you guys are doing good. I mean, I'll be completely candid because I see it from both ends, and I think
Sure.
Durham has come really far in the last 3 years in terms of what they're doing, and you have some really creative, good ideas coming forward. The processes are open, they're thoughtful. It's good, and you can show your work, which we've passed these ordinances, and they're good. So I think you're in a really good pathway. But Judith's point is well taken. Having people understand what you're doing, and nothing gets zoning, particularly. Very quickly, most people have no idea what you're talking about. I've noticed that universally. So a simplified version of what you're trying to accomplish is really helpful. It's really helpful in overcoming a lot of the resist. It's not necessarily going to stop it, but at least for most people, they'll understand.
Right.
Oh, okay, I understand.
And I think there's two components to it. One is the visuals. This is what downtown is going to look like
Yep.
under these proposals. The other one is the change in landscape since the master plan was written. Now we have the whole affordable housing thing, which really changes the orientation of the master plan to some extent.
Well,
I don't think any master
not-
plan is written to be in stone forever. And I think
10 years
people
max.
also have to understand that we're operating with some constraints. One is with the state. One is particularly with relation to the students, what we can legally do. And the thing that I'm really glad to have you here, because I am still convinced that we cannot do it all with land use change. We have to start looking at what the business models need to be in order to get developers to build the kind of housing we want.
Yeah.
I think that
Well, it's
that's
very
a
difficult,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to-
especially
yeah.
now when the state is not funding
Anything.
affordable housing.
Yeah.
The 4% LIHTC is, New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority is not offering it in 2025 for 2026 funding. So
We have almost nothing, almost no funding.
But I think
it's so
people,
disappointing.
I think people have to also understand
The
that.
federal government has shut it off
Yeah.
for 2026?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
It's
there's
us.
probably
It's the state.
a number of reasons.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks.
State funding being one of them.
Yeah, in 2 weeks, if you look at what the state budget is coming out of the Senate, it's like, Mike is completely correct. It is the minimum statutorily that we're required. We went from a lot of money to almost no money now. So it is
It's completely
challenging.
contrary to the goals the state
Yep.
has and the need. And as far as the federal government, I don't hear them talking about housing at all. They talk about other things, but nothing about housing. And it's that part of the groups of people that are concerned also I don't think have a real understanding about how difficult it is to build and how costly. And it's not about, there's the evil rich developer.
Exactly,
That is a misconception on their part, because we need them. We can't just say they're evil. Well, where are people going to live? You have your home, but there's a lot of people that are living in substandard housing and raising their children. And at the same time, you have rules. So if you're a family of 3, you have to find a 3-bedroom or a family with 3 children. So if you're a family of 5, and you have 3 children, you have to find a 3-bedroom home, or you cannot legally rent. And property managers follow the law. They do.
Right.
So you have a mother and a father, or 2 parents, and you have 3 children, and they have to find the very few 3 bedrooms that are available. And those 3 bedrooms are going for $3,000 and up a month.
Right, and
Right? That
will say that
Yeah.
is not going to get, you know,
and one of those parents, they might only be making $22 an hour.
Exactly.
And that would be considered a good job and paying their health care, and they have to scrape this together if they can find it.
Well, you know, I've been saying from the very beginning that we should be sitting down with developers and bankers. I know that bridge loans are a huge problem for the developers. But we can't try to solve our problems with our zoning
They're only a
without
piece of it. They're only a piece of it.
recognizing that there's another side of the story
Oh, yeah.
that has to be taken into account. If we're going to build apartment buildings downtown, hoping to get affordable housing, and the developers can't make any money building them, we're ruining our town without accomplishing.
You won't ruin it.
Well, we
because
won't
nothing will
ruin it
happen.
because nothing will be
Nothing will
built,
happen.
and that's the thing.
But you understand what, you know, I've
Well,
always
the
been
thing is-
a little bit leery of
But-
this affordable housing
re-
thing, particularly the one by right. What could be better for a developer than all of a sudden you can build in all of these zones by right?
So in the spring planning, the New Hampshire spring planning meeting, the first session, he's a lawyer from New Hampshire Municipal, had the greatest statement, and that is that planning is not supposed to be an adversarial event. You're trying to say yes to a good project.
Right.
That is the goal. I personally have witnessed some of the most heated arguments I've ever seen, all revolving around that process. And it gets completely out of hand. And I've heard people saying, just at this minute, the state is evil, developers are evil, municipalities are evil. There's a lot of evil people apparently in the world. And it's like, and so it makes the process just fly out of control. And I think that's the big thing. And I think me personally, this last year, I tried not to start any conversation with no. I let you give me your idea, and then I tried
Right.
to work from, okay, what are the issues, the problems with that idea, and then try to make it better. And I think that is where we need to go.
Yeah.
But I think it's always going to be a challenge, and I think you're doing
It is, but you know, we could say, oh, talking to developers, but the reality is in Durham, that our zoning is a moratorium on any building at all. And if it wasn't, let me tell you, if the zoning we have worked, we wouldn't have a problem. We would have redevelopment downtown, we'd have things built that fit our zoning, and this would be happening. But our zoning, even, it's outdated. It is based on some of these things like no duplexes. That's completely fear-based, that is 40 years old and doesn't qualify anymore. But if our zoning worked, during a time where everyone else, all communities around us, were building and redeveloping, you just have to drive around and you see all these big, beautiful buildings that are nice looking and are housing people and are providing new retail opportunities. And you go to Durham and we're floundering. We're falling apart. We don't have it. We don't have the quality retail space. We don't have what our master plan says to have the young adults or people living downtown. We don't have it. And if you can talk to developers all day long and bankers, but if we don't make it legal for them to build what they need to build, nothing will happen. And we have the proof.
But that's only one.
Well, we only have that one tool.
We've got a three-part.
That's our
That's all we have.
And the other one, of course, is the recent meeting with the businessmen and Todd. And, you know, they are to a great extent to blame for the fact that we have a dysfunctional downtown.
Well,
right? If they-
it's not, no, our
they don't
zoning
have
is
a
to
vision,
blame.
But
Our zoning is to
also,
blame.
you're
All right.
gonna blame it, anyway, we're off the track.
Yeah.
My
Totally.
own point was that we should be having an open community discussion about all of these things so that people can see these things in context.
Well,
And that know that people aren't pulling doing things on the sly. And I just think it's, you know, I'm a planner. That's the way you do things.
well,
I mean,
it's fine. You have.
I think a basic explanation, I agree. I mean, I think people, I tend to throw it under the broader umbrella of economic development because zoning is just one piece. I mean, we could talk about 7090 and the TIF. What is the town using? So
There's a lot.
I think having just a basic, you know, conversation that people understand how this works would be a good start. Because when you jump into a conversation without having the fundamental understanding of what you're going to talk about, it generally goes pretty badly.
And-
So I think that is something that would be really kind of cool to do. I think, you know, long ago, I did this thing which was called Pints of Science, and you went to, like, I think it was at Tributary, and they had some speakers that talked about, you know, some scientific thing, and they did a basic fundamental explanation in a kind of an easy space, and it would be really cool to do that with kind of like economic development. You know, where we had maybe over a tide line, go over like, how does even the planning board work? Or how does zoning work? Or what are the levers the town has at its disposal to try to get development? How do we work with developers? What are other communities doing? Yeah. I think it would be really cool to have a series like that. It's a good thing also because hopefully you can finagle some poor soul who would normally go play pickleball, but you can say, hey, there's an opening on the planning board, or there's an opening on the conservation commission. If you're interested in this, now that you know a little bit about it, come on and join us.
Yeah.
And I think that is a healthy dialogue for the community, and it would be great if we did something.
And if we wanted to
How about
plan,
our downtown development subcommittee, what are they doing?
we don't have an economic
don't have
development
it. We don't
committee
have
anymore.
I thought we had.
We
it
sunsetted that back in 220.
I thought we just
221.
started it up again.
No, we have not.
Well, we briefly had a
We had a-
downtown zoning subcommittee.
Yeah.
We had a subcommittee out of
They were
this.
supposed to be doing all
No,
of
the
this.
no. The subcommittee that came out of the Housing Task Force focused on the downtown development specifically.
Oh,
And
dear.
that's where the things that have already gone through
TIF.
that have already gone through the council already and been approved, or are in the council's hands that have been approved. That's where all that came from. Okay, and we did speak to property owners and property owners that are developing.
Yeah.
We did speak to them in that. There was a lot. And I would remind people, and I would remind you, that last year at this time, and in the fall, through the end of the summer and into the fall, I went to every single board and
Yes.
committee, and I went to I announced a public quorum, come to Freedom Cafe sit down with us and we will talk about all the reasons why. We will talk about what is going on with the zoning we have and ask them, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? We did that. We did that. And you know how many people came? That lady that you are was not there. And that was an opportunity, and if we can put out all the information
Yeah,
we have,
big
and
problem.
we put out information, but if people do not read the information that is available, I don't know what
They have
more we
some,
can do.
yeah, you shouldn't have to spoon
It
people. I
doesn't
mean, it's
even
all
matter if
enough.
they read
Proactive.
it, they refuse to accept it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
So
I had tremendous admiration for the amount of energy that you put into that, and I can, it's frustrating. I know we have to have a public meeting at the dump.
That's the best place for it.
That is probably a good
Well,
idea.
we could create a presentation there, and then we could volunteer for a couple of Saturdays to be hanging out there and talk to people, and we could do that. That might be the place to do it.
The only
And
problem
if
with
you-
that is that it's, I was really frustrated going over to the dump when we were having the ability for the dam
Yeah.
debate. To me, it was, for one, they had a table at the end too. It created a complete traffic jam.
We have to figure
And they
something
came
out, yeah.
into, your personal space when I wanted to just be at the dump and go to the swap shop, but they wanted to have you sign up for a petition, and if we start, I don't know if that's a public place to be able to do that or not, but I found it irritating.
Well, I mean,
That's just me.
I
but
think there's a
I
lot.
only wanted to snoop
I was
around for a
being-
good set of glasses.
I was
How
being
about that? We do need to move on and get this done.
I know, but
We
I
need to
haven't even
finish
gotten
this.
my part done yet.
Let's put
yeah.
it in the back of our
Let's-
heads.
Yeah, but, okay,
Quick,
so
please.
I'm gonna make one comment on the communication part, and that is, when we came up with, out of this group, zoning suggestions, it was completely shut down. They said, what facts do you have?
Way back.
Way back.
Way back.
Even though
Open,
we
yeah.
had done a lot of our own research, we understood what was, what was, and then, because of the state, we were able to fund a group that did it for us. And then, we get complaints about that, and what research did we do ourselves? So, you're never gonna get, you're never gonna get everybody, but that's another story.
So-
But I wanted to say from the town council perspective, when we met last Monday, this was one of the biggest topics was the problem with the downtown. And we realized that the zoning that had been put in place was one of the causes, and we only have so many tools in our toolbox. And one of them is to try and make us more welcoming to the development community, which has basically said Durham is hands-off.
Yeah.
And so the fact that we need to do, good multi-use development projects requires certainty to developers. Therefore, you shouldn't have it under conditional use. We need the 79E. We've done that. We've looked at our finances. This was a discussion last Monday, is that when you go and reassess the commercial properties downtown,
They're all going up.
they're going to go.
Oh, they're gonna go
go down.
Whoa.
Where does that tax go now?
Yeah.
Who's going to be paying more to go to the rec committee?
Where-
We are.
Where our housing, our own personal homes are going up.
Our homes are going up. The
Commercial's
commercial
going down.
properties are going down. You look at those properties and say, oh, we don't want to change downtown. If you take a really close look, how much peeling paint? How much when you walk along that curb do you see of foundations that are looking a little iffy nowadays? You've got a one-story building that was built in 1940-something because a beautiful four-story hotel got burned down in whatever year that
They were
was.
built cheaply.
So, in general, if we don't change something as a town,
We're
we're
gonna,
going to have we already
gonna
have
be
a
bad.
dying downtown, and it's just going to get
Yeah.
worse. Because if you keep doing what you're doing and expect different results, then you're just
And it-
in la la land.
And
But
it's
that
not
was-
the fault, yeah, it's not the fault of the people that own those properties, because for
No.
them to get in and fix stuff, they get into some zoning stuff or some code restrictions that make it very, very expensive, and it's not worth it because they don't get their money out of it, because it's just a
Right.
store. So,
So our big concerns at the town council level are the fact that our town expects certain services, and our taxes are not supporting it are not going to
Right.
support it. And if we don't fix commercial, the burden's going to be on everybody else. And we need to try and fix that, because we know we have people that struggle in town financially. And we know that we have a dying downtown, and without the vibrancy of downtown, property values for the commercial properties will continue to degrade.
Right, well,
So
I think
that's
that
what we have from the town
with
council's
zoning-
discussions.
Right, if
zoning-
you build it, they will come, or vice versa. If we had a vision, and I would love to see an imaginative group, where is Bill Schoonmaker?
Well,
If we had an imaginative group that came up with a really neat idea, and I have one, but no one's been listening to it, that would completely redo our downtown, to build it around revitalization, getting people back into town. If we need to demolish buildings, if we need to redo our zoning, we can't just keep living in Pizza Town. Nothing's
Yeah.
ever going
Well-
to change. And, so I was very disappointed. I was very excited about the idea of joining this downtown group, because I thought that's what we were going to be doing.
well, we can, we gotta.
So I'd love to, we have to do something like that. Yeah, we can't be
Well,
trying to accommodate
there-
pizza places with zoning.
There is more to it. There is definitely more to it, and I agree, because I've talked about it at a couple of meetings, that this is one thing. All right, this is not a once and done, there's more things. There may be more the town needs to do at a different level. There are certainly TIF and things like that the town needs to do. It's not just one thing. But what we are in charge of is zoning. And right now, that's what we need to look at. Now, we have submitted the ones for the downtown, and those have gone through the planning board and are in the hands of the council. Some have already been approved. We have, the council has reinitiated 79E, which is what we asked them to do, because we need that for downtown as well. But what we have here is our finished product that we really need to get this done and give it to, the next step would be to hand it to the planning board so that we can hand it to the council, right?
Right.
Okay, so.
So just want to know,
Or other questions?
Well, Judith, you asked about having some kind of charrette or public thing. We heard people several months ago, and we did that. The planning board had a special workshop. Todd and I were here as well, along with all the planning board members, and it was devoted specifically, a big portion of a meeting, to talking about all the zoning changes that are in the works. And we all gave an overview and an explanation for what it was all about. Public was invited. I think there were a few questions from the audience, but we did that.
We've done
But
a lot.
I agree with you.
Sounds
We
great.
should always put it out there because people want to understand the details.
How many people came, Mike?
2,
I don't remember.
Minimal.
Not as many as we expected.
people don't come, and that's the thing. And it's the same people that come.
And then they complain that
And
it's
then
all
they
being done
complain.
behind closed doors.
So it's not, there is nothing being done behind closed doors. And there is nothing, and we were accused that it's being not, that these decisions were being made by people that are not community members. And I'm like, I am a resident, I am a tax-paying resident of the town of Durham, and if I wasn't, I wouldn't be on this board. These are community boards. Any of those people that are concerned could join any of these boards that we have and have a direct say. They can come to any meeting and speak. We listen, nothing is being done. So there's a point where it's just become, that's your perception, but that is not reality. So let's go on and go through these.
I really scored at this.
Yeah, you did.
But now I can't go to the
As we
dump.
move into this stuff, Sally, I'll just say one thing, because as I looked at the rough draft, or what we're gonna approve today of the table of uses, and then we get into like lot sizes, all I can think of is the madness that's occurring at the state level.
Okay.
Just us reacting, because we've reacted to a lot of things in
Yeah.
here, particularly when we were trying to do like lot sizes. And we're gonna meet my caucuses, the housing caucuses meeting Wednesday. And we're starting, believe it or not, to write legislation for next year. And I circled 6 bills that have been retained or tabled. And I specifically, when I was influenced when I looked at this, I would like to move away from us dictating uses and lot sizes and do back more to enabling. I really like the idea of what I had Michael do the exercise, which was the form-based infill, because one of the biggest fears that we have is that you're afraid that it's going to destroy your community when you do stuff, and the form-based kind of takes that away because it conforms. So at any rate, the hope would be, and I can't guarantee this, but I would like to go into the next session with things that are helping communities rather than dictating. And,
Yep.
and because I felt like I spent it, and I don't feel, I actually did do, just a lot of time making things that were not particularly well thought through bills less harmful, and then when I looked at this and I thought about how our deliberations were like, frontage, do we do 50, do we do 100, what do we do? And somebody's like, literally said to me in Concord, you guys can work around that. I was like, that's true, but that's not a really efficient use of time for a municipality trying to work around what the state is mucking around with. So
And
I
open
would
to
hope,
manipulation.
I would hope that would lead us to some better legislation next.
Well, that's why I think that the attainable housing ordinance that Durham passed was really good. I may
Yeah.
be a little biased, but it's totally optional. And we looked at that very carefully. We talked with developers, and we know for the right project, it's viable because of the density,
Right.
the serious density bonus is 100% affordable in perpetuity. And it was built in, we consulted with a lot of people in the housing field so that it's really workable. But it's totally up to the developer. You don't have to do it. The landowner doesn't have to do it. We think the numbers work. We're hoping a project comes forward. But that's enabling. That's not telling anyone they have to do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't want to sidetrack us. I'm just saying, as I look through this, my hope is that, because it was a lot of work that you guys put into this, and I hope that we stop doing stupid
I
things.
think that, I think when it comes to the conservation subdivision, that kind of thing might be more. But I mean, let's go through this and let's
Yeah.
just get do you think this is good? Do we, any last minute tweaks? So we have resident single family, we added them we are permitting them in the office research, which is now going to become business residential. So it'll be, instead of OR, it's going to be BR. It's going to be permitted in Mudor and Orly and Durham Business Park, but as a P4, meaning it has to be in a conservation subdivision, which is appropriate, I think, for those areas. Anybody else good with that?
Yeah?
Yep.
Okie dokie. Residence duplex, we are allowing in duplex, 4 units, 2 to 4 units. Also, we are permitting that in all of our zones, all of our residential zones, with the exception of downtown business, central CB, and Coast Corner, not Coast Corner, Churchill.
Should we?
And we're, hold on,
Courthouse,
and
courthouse.
courthouse, right, courthouse.
Oh, so we're going to.
So I'm just
And-
like clarifying language, so I sorry to
Okay.
interrupt. Where it says duplex 2 4plex, you mean that it can be
2 to 4
2 to 4?
units.
Yeah.
Did
2
we
to 4
talked
units.
about, is this
The-
what we actually fixed it to? Because I thought we were going to make it clear.
Duplex 2 4plex,
Two,
would that
three,
be
four.
easier?
The
It-
2 through 4 or 2
Oh,
to 4. I
Two-
thought we were going to
right,
do something
right.
with that dash
Yeah.
so that it wasn't confusing.
2 up
right.
to 4.
Because it almost looks like you're saying 2
exactly.
4.
Right.
It's going to be 2, 3, 4 unit.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2, 3, 4.
I changed it up, right, I
3,
changed it.
comma.
Right,
That might be
right.
better. 2, 3, 4.
So
would
you're
be
going to make
better.
that,
Yeah.
and that will be,
Okay.
that will make.
Right, so,
makes
right, you made it
sense.
residence 2, 3, or 4 units.
Yeah.
So
There you
I'll
go.
make that everywhere.
Perfect.
Yeah.
There.
And that
Sorry,
will
I just
be-
wanted to clarify.
No, I was looking at 2 thinking, I think we were going to do something here.
Now, that is, we got to realize that part, some of the members on the councils were very concerned about two purchase. They want more options for two purchase, and this gives us much better to purchase options, because those duplexes and the 2, 3s, and 4s are those basic condos that could be very attractive and be
More
our
affordable.
to purchase, not for rent, but to purchase, but a more affordable because they're a tighter footprint. And then allowing those as well in our more commercial zones, Moodor, Orly, and Durham Business Park. But again, as that little P4 means as a conservation subdivision. And I would apologize for anybody that doesn't understand this, but we are doing zoning and we have to speak zoning.
Yeah.
We have to use the vocabulary that goes with zoning. But if anybody ever has a question, email me and I will sit down with them wherever they want to sit and talk about it and explain. It's not beyond anyone. Resident multi-unit, we are making permitted in PO. We are making it permitted in Church Hill, and Courthouse, and Coast Corner. Now, we already have residence multi-units in all of those. We weren't allowing them to be built, but that is what we have in all of those zones right now as we speak. So we are allowing something that already exists in those zones. We are doing it for our new BR, business residential, to be allowed as conservation subdivision. We are allowing it in Moodor, right, as permitted, and Durham Business Park as permitted, but P4, which is as a conservation subdivision in Orly.
Could I ask a quick question?
Yep.
In our conservation subdivisions, we will now be allowing multi-unit residents.
In the
Are we at all-
conservation subdivision?
Are we at all concerned about water and sewer? To have multi-unit residences in the conservation district, which may or may not have.
In a conservation.
Well, if it wouldn't be able to make it, they wouldn't be able to
Yeah,
build
you
it.
can't build it if you can't get the permit, so it's pretty
Yeah.
simple.
I'm sorry, you what?
You would have to get a DES permit
Yeah.
for your septic.
So if it can't make it,
That would
you
manage the
won't
whole
be able to
property.
build. It's
Yeah.
just as simple.
Don't we have elsewhere that it's only allowable where there's water and sewer?
No, we don't
No.
have any language like that.
And that,
You don't need it because you can't. Again, it's non-negotiable.
and it's.
It really is.
Yeah, it's.
Anything with a DES permit is negotiable.
Yeah,
Well-
I mean, I'm just saying, in terms of us, in terms of planning, if you don't, you will not get approval if you do not have a DES, sewer.
Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
I mean, you can put it in there just to reinforce it, but it is the rule of the land.
Yeah.
Having been in charge of DES for 24 years, I'll tell you, there's nothing that's not negotiable. with
It's
DES.
true, it's true.
Right.
Well, then they
Look
would
at
have to.
solid waste facilities.
It's true. But the overarching,
Well, those are
let me just say, the overarching thing is if you can't get a permit from DES, you ain't building
You
it.
ain't building it. And they have the say. Senior housing. That category of housing design specifically, that is for only seniors, 55 and up, we are just eliminating that completely.
Good.
It is completely outdated. We have a finite number of baby boomers. We're not making any more baby boomers.
But if somebody
I'm
wanted
like
to build it
I'm on
over
the
55,
end.
that's
I'm
their
like the
right.
last baby boomer born into this thing. And I'm telling you, we do not need special housing.
Other towns can do it.
Well,
And
we
they're
can still
stopping
do
it as well.
A developer could do it. We're not stopping them from doing it.
Yeah,
But
they
we're not
can.
saying to get this density, you have to have an over 55. I
Yeah,
think
they
that's
can
the
build
best
regular
way.
housing
Yeah.
and seniors can live. You don't-
Anywho.
We don't exclude them from living in a regular apartment. I mean,
Right, you're right.
One of the biggest
but we,
conversation points when we were doing the Attainable Housing Overlay District was, well, what if all the seniors move in?
We thought it was students, now it's seniors.
It's both.
Yeah.
It's actually, if it's like, well, we want workforce, so we got to keep seniors out. It's really weird how the conversation goes.
you gotta, yeah, and you gotta kind of just let humanity do its
They're all
thing.
evil.
It's fine, it's fine. It's fine. We're not trying to do that. Okay, so we didn't make any changes to the senior care, nursing home, manufactured housing, even though there is
Well,
no,
It's iffy
sorry.
on that, so.
P, manufactured housing is allowed in the rural zone.
Did it used
But,
to
Isn't there a state?
There is. So 685 is going to committee of conference. I'm on it, which would allow manufacturing by right anywhere you do single-family homes. That the reason it's going to committee of conference, the hang-up is more of a technical thing. It's the difference between manufactured housing and modular housing. Manufactured housing, you're on literally a rail foundation, and modular, you're not. You're going to lay it on a foundation, and so they kind of mixed the things together, and we're just going to pull them apart. In my opinion, you want to allow both anywhere.
Modular housings, there's no regulation, it's completely allowed. That's, I've said this before, just my personal annoyance. The manufactured housing industry purposely obfuscated everybody, making you think modular housing, panelized housing, pre-built housing is mobile homes, and it's not.
Well,
No.
Anyway.
I-
the
I-
This is an
frustration-
FYI.
Where,
different
yeah,
codes.
where will it be allowed? If
So
they
this
pass
is
it?
So
something I would vote on.
I would assume that anywhere you allow a single-family home, you will allow manufactured housing.
Okay.
And I will know the answer to that in 2 weeks.
So my
would-
sister and brother-in-law live in a modular home in a neighborhood
Modular
of
Manufactured.
mobile
Manufactured.
homes.
Those are very different.
They are.
Are.
Well,
And I walk into that house and I can't tell the difference. And they had, this year, they modified to be put on a to have their house have a basement or
Yeah.
platform. Not in California, you don't need a
you don't
basement.
need a
Yeah.
basement.
So that a person would be able to get a home loan in order to buy their home. They're
Yeah.
prepping to move. But in general, they've lived in that house for over 10 years, and it's a beautiful little home in a very nice little area in California, and it's nothing wrong with it, and it's
Yeah.
not in this like whole mobile home park.
And you know what? I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to defend mobile home parks too, because there is an awful lot of bigotry, and it is. It's bigotry toward people that live in manufactured housing parks or mobile home parks. They offer a single-family opportunity for people that are making a lot less money than some of us around that table.
Some of them are struggling with the fact that
And
those
they
home
have,
values are
and
now
when
up
they
to-
can buy 3 bedrooms, so when you have a family and you can put them in a mobile home, and let me tell you, these things are not cheap. The new ones are going for $450. Older ones that were put in place in the 70s are still going for $120,000, $150,000. But if you can find one that is really old and cruddy, and you can get it for $50,000, and you could put some time and equity into that, your own roof over your own head. And I don't think any of us around the table is fit to say it's substandard.
So can you put a star next to the manufacturer? By the time this gets to you guys on the planning board,
It might be just something that needs to be removed or say, treat a
I'll know,
single-family house.
we'll know the answer to
Yeah.
it. It's like, so again, I think it's next week I go into committee of conference on this bill, and it'll be voted on. Our last session is June 26th. I don't know what the governor will do, but I assume the governor would say yes.
And
But
the park housing, the park legislation that died,
the park.
wasn't there also one dealing with manufactured housing parks?
There was
We haven't done anything with manufactured, so the push on both sides has just been to allow manufactured, in your zoning it says you're supposed to allow the opportunity of a manufactured housing park somewhere, but it's kind of
No,
vague.
no, just, you mean the proposed legislation?
No, I'm talking
No.
about current
Well,
current
you
law.
have to allow either manufactured housing or individual.
Yeah, so
manufactured units.
what's coming through is that anywhere there's a single-family home, you would have to allow it would have to allow a manufactured
Yeah.
house to be there.
Because right now, you can't put a manufactured house anywhere except for the rural zone. So
No.
we couldn't put it, which is wrong, because there are some very nice ADU manufactured homes that people could just pop into. the
I'm just saying you'll
backyards
know
that
within a
fit
couple of
properly.
weeks. So I would just, if you star that, by the time it gets
All right.
to you in the planning board, you guys are going to know the outcome.
Why
Okay.
don't we just eliminate the whole category?
That
No.
might be an option, but
Well, we're going to want to make
we'll
sure
see,
that
we'll
that's.
see what the state does.
I don't
Let's see
know.
what the
I'm
state
just,
does.
I'll tell you what, again, I will I'll email the housing committee and the planning board after we do the committee of conference, just to because I know there's going to be amendment or some kind of fix in there, and I'll let you know what it is and if we concur.
The concern I would have about just eliminating it is would there be some confusion as, well, it's manufactured housing, that's single-family home.
You should keep it in there.
I would-
Keep
yeah,
the
I would just
definition of
be
it, because it's different
concerned-
because it has
yeah.
its own foundation built in.
Anyways, okay, so pork chops, we're making those permitted in A and B. They're not allowed in C for some reason, I don't really understand why.
No, it does, it's already.
You're looking at the wrong
Oh.
version.
Pork chop
This
subdivision?
is the one we were given.
No, they are already allowed in
It's already
rural
allowed
and
in
RC.
I have P in all 4 residential zones.
Yes,
Yeah, all
Yeah.
4 sorry, I'm looking, don't mind me.
it wasn't blue, so you didn't think it
Yeah,
was.
I've got cruise eyes.
Cruise eyes.
Cruise eyes.
You'll dry out in a couple more days.
Oh, my God. All right, so accessory dwelling units, we are making them permitted in
How did we
everywhere.
put that in central?
Except for central, oh, we did
Why?
put it
Well,
in
no, the
central
reason
business.
we are is that if you happen to have a single-family home in the central business district,
Right.
you're non-conforming, but if you got it, it's just an accessory
Yeah.
use.
And it is-
So
Do we
we're
have
probably
one?
not going to see much
And
of
there
it.
is an accessory to single-family homes. We
Okay.
don't have it, but we're just putting it there. Where accessory dwelling unit detached, all that attached, detached stuff is
Heather?
going away.
That really depends on what happens if Joe gets to expand CB2.
Oh, good point.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
We'll have another discussion on that.
That will be interesting.
I have my reservations.
Oh, I should probably
I wanna
note
go
that
up instead.
as part of this, the CB1 and the CB2 thing has been adopted already. So our CB, we should refer to, it's actually CB1.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
CB2 is Mill Plaza.
And we need to put in a line that says CB2.
Yeah. And that's being added now.
Yeah, okay. Mixed use with residential, we are making that permitted. Well, this will be, oh, no, this is mixed use with residential. We are permitting that. We still have it CU
Oh, yeah,
in central
I'll
business.
update that, yeah.
That needs to be permitted.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be permitted
In
in
CU1, in CB1, yeah.
CB1. But
not
CB2 is CU. We need to have that clarified.
Yeah, right.
Because it could be very confusing. And we're not allowing mixed use with residential in the Churchill Courthouse and Co's or professional office, but we are changing them and making them allowed in our new, what used to be OR, which is now going to be business residential. Make that permitted. Mudor, Orly, and Durham Business Park will all be permitted.
I'm thinking about the possibilities of developing some interesting professional office
Yeah.
with a pork chop. If the problem is insufficient road frontage, but we want people to be able to use the back part of their property.
They could drive
I
in.
think being able to maximize the amount of commercial use, then we should allow.
Yeah,
pork
with less
chops.
driveways is actually better.
I'm not sure if there's any properties large enough in PO
Well, what
where
is
you
it?
would do something like that.
But what is it that makes us say no to pork chops? Other than I don't eat pork.
So, in these internal dense areas that are already fully developed, or you're essentially already in
You're
a
already-
grid block.
Yeah.
You don't have that issue where you can't get to the back of the
Right.
property, right? Because
already
everything's
is-
already gridded in.
It's already kind of set up like a pork chop.
No, it's already fully developed is what it
Yeah.
is. I mean, that's what you're looking at
Well-
in commercial core zones. Now,
Well,
for
like
the, for the research industry zones,
Could it
when
expand?
it comes down to, you're either going to do a pork chop or you're going to do a conservation subdivision. And personally, as a planning board member, I'd rather
Conservation
see
subdivision.
conservation subdivisions.
Yeah.
Because pork chops are going to waste a lot more land.
Yeah, you're
And
right.
I'm looking for pork chops in the Mudor. right? You know, where there's a lot more open land, and it still remains to be seen how that's going to be.
Yeah, the
So
conservation
that goes back to
subdivision.
the-
So that should allow pork chops. We
Well,
need
except
more
that-
flexibility.
Well, right, so that, in that case, you have to go back to the first page and say where we've made a P4, you're saying, oh, we're not going to force you into a conservation subdivision anymore.
It's better to keep them as conservation
Well,
subdivision.
no, but we're talking businesses, we're talking industry, we're talking,
Businesses don't use pork
Professional.
chop, that's a residential thing.
well, if you don't have sufficient road frontage, you have to be able to pork chop to be able to build behind your original building, right?
Yeah, I mean, that mainly applies in outlying areas.
Well, that's why I was
But,
thinking
you know, we
about
are,
Woodor.
but there may be some lots in RA or RB that could come into play.
No,
It'd be nice
no,
not
she's
to
talking
have to
about.
do
So
it.
He's talking about Moodor.
Pork chopping
Mixed use.
Moodor.
Oh, well, there's not much land in Moodor, but Orley is a different, Orley
Yeah,
might.
Orly.
So can I just kick
Orly.
you back up to the mixed use with residential and office retail? So that's House Bill 631 that got passed by both the House and the Senate. And in there, it says, notwithstanding any provision to the contrary, municipalities shall allow multifamily residential development on commercially zoned lands provided that adequate infrastructure, including road, water, sewage, shall be available. And then they tried to kind of buffer it a little, saying nothing in this section shall be interpreted to prohibit municipalities from restricting residential development in zones where industrial and manufacturing uses are permitted, which may result in the impact, incompatible residential uses such as air, noise, odor, and transportation impacts. In other words, if you have something like a smelting plant, you don't put an apartment next to it. So the only reason I said that is just keep that in mind in your, it's lower than mixed use, that line, mixed use with residential, office, retail,
We're permitting
down
all that.
multi-use development. So anywhere that you technically have commercial use, you're gonna have to allow the mixed use residential.
And we are.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
good.
Actually, I have sort of a correction. Under mixed use with residential, it should also be P in the core areas because we are allowing multi-unit
Yep.
in those 4 areas, and we allow a lot of commercial uses. So for consistency, it should be P
Yep.
for all 4. However, we should have a note that the commercial can only be commercial that's allowed. So obviously, we allow commercial, we allow multifamily.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can have a mixed-use building, but in the professional office, for example, we don't allow a restaurant. I don't know why.
Well, that's
So we should
ridiculous.
not allow mixed use with a restaurant on the first floor, but that's just for consistency.
But if we
Yeah.
want to expand our commercial district.
Well, that's a whole other thing.
It is,
You don't
but
want to get
nonetheless,
into
to your
that. You don't
point-
want to get into that.
No, but his point is
Yeah.
well taken. So anywhere that you're having the commercial uses are, but anywhere you're allowing commercial use, you're gonna have to allow mixed use residential.
So we should
So-
have
Well,
these
and I'll
all the
just
way
add a
along.
note.
Yeah,
I'll
so
just-
I was just saying
We have
here-
to. Yeah, that's all P. I'll just add a note at the end. But the
PO.
commercial is only what's allowed in that district.
All right. So PO, Churchill, Courthouse, and Co's should be
Mixed use
mixed
residential
mixed use
permitted.
P.
P.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we're allowing multi-unit and we're allowing commercial.
Yeah,
But limited,
definitely.
so we have to, only the commercial that's allowed.
Okay, yeah,
Nonetheless, P
right.
with
Like
an
like
asterisk.
animal care is not, you can't have animal care.
Well, why not have a doggy daycare?
Have a what?
A doggy
Some
daycare?
people
Well,
don't
maybe.
like doggy
But
daycare
that's a
because
whole
it's
nother
noisy.
You guys can change what uses you allow.
That's just
Right.
that's almost a
Okay.
formatting question.
Yeah,
We
for
can see
sure.
how it
But
goes. Yeah.
the only reason I
All
tagged
right.
it up here is because you have X's
Yeah,
across where you
yeah,
should
and
have.
Right.
those will be
It should
really
be-
covered
it
in
should
that
be P,
bill, so,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, so that will be changed for our final draft. And then we add these little things
The
that,
notes.
little notes.
Did we decide we're going to let pork chop and the Orly?
No,
No?
what do you think?
We
Okay.
want to maximize,
It's up to you. Well, let's
We
see, in
wanna
Orly,
maximize
you're
opportunities
allowing
for-
single family, so you could have single family subdivisions
Yeah.
there. So it's up to you, either way.
Well,
I'm
that's,
looking for
we're-
industrial pork chop.
no,
use.
except pork chop's not an industrial use.
Well, it will be when we get through with it.
No,
If it's
no,
a- if it's a
whoa.
meat
The definition
just
of a
looking-
pork chop subdivision
So it-
is strictly for single-family homes.
Oh, but you are allowing single-family in Orley.
We are allowing single
By
family.
by
By
conservation
subdivision
subdivision
subdivision.
only, though.
Oh, right.
Under
okay.
conservation
Good
subdivision
point.
rules versus
Just
that
to
one.
be-
Oh, all right, good point.
But just to be flexible, we got a lot, a big Orley lot. We need to be able to maximize the uses on it. So we need to be able to have, if there's not enough road frontage, we want them to be able to put in a driveway and another use behind, right?
They could just build a
To be able to get
road.
more development.
They
You
can
would just build a road.
No, but you can't, as Paul said, that would be inconsistent.
If they're,
Unless you change, because right now Orley allows
what-
single-family only conservation
for what they
subdivision.
want to do, all right, they could, they don't need, an industrial complex does not need to have that pork chop subdivision to build out in the back, because they're allowed to do any sort of
Okay.
industrial combination they want on the property. So they can, there's nothing stopping them from doing that now.
Yeah, so they're
It's
fine.
your tax dollars at stake.
But it won't
Yeah, and even
affect
if you-
anything.
I don't know, I suppose it's possible you could have a commercial pork chop subdivision, but
But if we don't need
Unlikely.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we added
That's
4
okay, huh?
single-family residents. You know, we have certain things that have got to be in a conservation subdivision. Multi-unit residence is allowed by the BR and Office Research Light Industry only on sites containing a minimum of 2 acres and only in conservation subdivisions. That's okay?
Yeah.
Note regarding accessory use, some accessory uses are allowed where the principal use is not allowed. For example, an accessory dwelling unit in a single-family residence is allowed in the courthouse district, but a single-family resident is not allowed in this district.
we just talked about that a
Yeah.
moment ago.
Yeah. Because, yeah, and anyways, therefore, wherever a single-family residence might be legally established in the courthouse district, such as a pre-existing non-conforming residence or one allowed by variance, an ADU would be allowed.
And we have those in those
Yeah.
areas, so, yeah.
Okay,
makes sense.
so are all of these, okay?
I
So
think we've actually gotten somewhere on that.
Yeah.
can
no, I
we
think
send,
this is
yeah,
great.
can we send this to the planning
Now,
board?
the dimensions.
Okay, let's do the
What about the
dimensions
And
first.
hopefully this
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, we're gonna
Keep
go
going.
dimensions, where's the dimensions? Let's do that. We added a definition, residence, 2, 3, or 4 units.
Oh,
That's
so I
why,
have a question about that. We still have a definition for residence duplex, which is in one building. Is that useful to keep, we don't refer to that anywhere now.
well, we
I don't know
have,
if it's
no.
because
we have
2,
residence
3, 4 is
4.
any combination.
Well,
So
we
maybe
do-
duplex is.
Yeah, we got rid of
not-
duplex.
Is superfluous?
Yeah.
Just delete it from the definitions then, okay.
Yeah, delete duplex. From definitions. All right, so we have that. Is that good with everybody?
Yep.
Here we go in their density. We're getting rid of density for senior residential to density, special density standards. What does that mean? We have senior care facilities, nursing homes, and workforce housing. Okay.
So this is the small.
Oh, I thought we were going to table the dimensions, sorry, I was looking at the wrong thing.
We're getting
Yeah,
there.
we're getting
Okay,
there.
sorry.
Yeah,
I was starting to look for something.
yeah. These are just some definitions. So how does that definition work? That's all
which
good?
one?
A, density. We're getting rid of density for senior residential housing because we're not going to
Right.
do that. So we have special density standards. In determining the maximum density for senior care facilities, nursing homes, and workforce housing as defined by the RSA, the following provisions shall apply. And I'm assuming that workforce housing as defined by the RSA is because it is not going to be as defined by our overlay district.
Right.
And no one is going to build it as defined by the RSA.
Well, unlikely. But,
But senior
you know,
care
it's
facilities and
possible.
nursing homes should have, yeah.
Because they
especially-
don't have dwelling units.
And
yeah.
they need the density, and we need senior care facilities. Or at least we will for a while.
But somebody might use this density bonus, you know, not use the attainable housing overlay, but you do this somewhere else. You know,
They
this is a
might.
decent bonus.
And they may,
Michael?
Yeah.
Is it clear enough that the second line, you know, that these that these workforce housing lines are only if they do them outside of the overlay district?
Oh, it could be confusing.
Or
Well, they
does this
could-
create a double dipping effect?
They could do it anywhere that multi-units allowed.
Should
So
we?
they
but-
could do it in the, you
Well, what I'm
know,
saying is they're coming into the housing overlay district.
Could be confusing.
oh, you mean, so we should clarify that you can't use this provision and the attainable housing at the same time.
Not applicable to,
Right.
yeah.
Right. You could use it there if you wanted instead of it, but you can't use both.
Right.
Yeah, I'll clarify
Right.
that.
So clarify that, not applicable to that.
Or else I think the density gets really crazy.
It could get a little, and it could be misleading to somebody building.
I mean, it would get down to the thing where I think you could put a unit,
We could then take it
Can't you just put
50%.
it in
you could be putting
brackets for
units in
workforce housing
on
unit
like
bracket?
2,000 square feet or
Not
something silly
applicable
like
to-
that.
Well, these are not for subdivisions, only for multi-residents. Because they don't refer to lot sizes, just
Okay.
density.
Okay. So we're just going to clarify that.
Yeah, I mean, it's
For
pretty
workforce
generous.
housing.
And per the old state law, per the state law that said it's got to be consistent with senior housing, we got rid of senior housing, but we're keeping this. But I think it's it's decent. It's a double density, and if you do all one bedrooms, it's
Yeah.
triple density. So
And-
maybe somebody would do that.
For senior care facilities and nursing homes, 4 beds or accommodations for 4 residents in those facilities that do not provide dwelling units shall count as 1 bedroom, 1 dwelling unit. So you get 4 people in one for the nursing home. And they are going to build it, hopefully. All right,
Oh, here's right, 2 to 4.
that's
2 to
okay.
4.
Well, you won't get any more nursing homes until we solve the housing
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah, because they don't
You
have
can't find
staff.
people.
John Randolph's ready to do it, but he can't.
You gotta pay them.
They're actually closing places down around the state because the state's forcing them because they can't keep staffing up.
And this is bad.
And we're
This is
cutting
just
Matt.
catastrophic
That's-
for elderly people. That, you gotta realize how many baby
Where are they gonna
boomers
live?
worked in, did not,
Afford it, you can leave the state.
their savings and the rate of pay that they made in the 70s and 80s
Nursing home
was not like
thing for
what
the county.
we're making now.
Yeah.
And so their economic situation is very bad.
Kids can't go to college, they'll have
All
to
right.
stay
Very
in
bad.
I think we're good.
Okay,
Keep
2 to
going.
4. All right, 2, oh my God, I can't get this. So we're at 2 or 4 unit residents.
I'll change the term, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
Yeah.
et cetera.
The
Yeah.
following form-based standards apply to the construction of any 2, 3, or 4, we'll change that, unit residence in any of the 4 residential zoning districts. The purpose of this position is to ensure that the construction of a 2, 3, or 4, change it there, and unit residence is compatible with the character of the existing residential neighborhoods. I hate the word character. All buildings shall be placed parallel or perpendicular.
Oh, but I added I added the stuff about site plan, but that's, goes
Okay.
without saying.
The front entrance shall face the street except where the building is turned at 90 degrees in front of the driveway. So these garage doors may not face the street except if they are recessed at least 10 feet from the primary facade. I don't really know how that would
This is-
even work.
But I want to emphasize, if you're serious about form-based code, this is the most fundamental thing. Parking's the biggest objection. If I have a single-family house and a duplex is going in next door to me, and that duplex has the conventional one-story with 2 garages.
With the garage on the bottom.
That's what people are going to object
They-
to. So,
They can
10
drive
feet.
around.
well,
10 feet?
well,
You're not
so
gonna
it's
that's not
so
gonna
it's
happen.
not really prominent. So the garage
But
door is
10
not.
feet is,
Not bad.
It's not going to, it will be,
Then
it will
don't
look
put it
like,
facing the street. Turn
they'll
it
go
sideways.
around, they'll have to come
No,
in, they'll have to have rear
It makes it
entrance.
impossible. is
Well,
what
then
it does.
turn them sideways.
I mean,
I've seen
I
them
go
just
back
go
to-
back a couple feet.
You'll be
but 10 feet-
cantilevered over.
All right,
I
you wanna
have,
make it-
I have a bedroom
You wanna
that's
make it
10
5
foot by 10
feet?
foot.
So I think
come
just-
on.
I don't want it
forward.
there at all.
I think this, okay.
You don't want them in the front at all?
No, they can
because
go in the
I
back.
keep going back. Yeah, so
I think we agreed to take this out.
No, you said more discussion.
Okay,
Okay, well, the discussion.
the 10 feet thing is
So-
silly.
Well, why not make it 5 feet?
I would say
No
This
feet at all.
This is basic form-based
think-
code.
can I
This
say
is the
something?
number one thing.
Pearly
People
Lane.
don't-
I'll say one thing.
Well, that's because they're
Pearly
not
Lane.
next to single family. It's its own development.
But they are single
This can go in the faculty neighborhood.
I think you guys at the.
That's
let's-
not just that, but Foss Farm has single-family homes and duplexes, and they don't do this.
What?
You guys should.
You don't, because single-family home is like anything goes. That's pretty standard in this society.
I'm just
Duplexes
saying
in
is that
single-family
if you're
neighborhoods.
talking about doing this offset, and if you went into that neighborhood where there's single-family homes
It will
and
look weird.
duplexes, and the garages are set at the street, and they look just fine, and they don't have this. Go
Well,
ahead, sorry.
because you have
I'm just
different
gonna say,
standards
'cause
for
this is-
single-family.
I would call, first of all, conceptually, I like the idea. This is a generic form-based infill idea. I think we couldn't get caught up in these 7 things for a long, long time.
Yep.
I think that send them to the planning board. The planning board,
And
you guys
discuss
can
more.
like grind away at it, and you know, we're giving you the template. I think under best circumstances, what I would say is that the town says, you know what? We are willing to put $50,000 aside, go have architects draw up some designs and say these
Yeah, but that's
designs
not
are
till
permitted by
And
use.
create some, yeah.
But we don't have the money right now, and that's not until you guys do the budget. So just send the generic form along to the planning board. You guys can wrangle with it.
I would,
And
if we're doing that, I wouldn't send it over to them with anything more than 4 feet. I
That
think
you-
10
you
feet
what?
is absurd. I
10
said
feet
if
is
we wanted to
ridiculous.
keep this going, but
It will
have
look
a
dumb.
recess, then I would
It-
say no more than 4
What-
feet, where
what
it just
you-
is a little bit of an offset, because then you have your front door and maybe a step up.
Yeah.
and your
Oh, wait,
garage
what are you
is
saying,
here.
no more than what, 4
4
feet?
4 feet on the
Oh,
garage.
okay, yeah. I mean,
Because
as long as
what-
you're setting it back.
You're going to have
All
a
right.
cavern. You're going to have this
I know,
building
it will
and then a
look
big
strange.
cavern. It will look odd. And what you'll do is you will basically be placed, they will put a car in the garage and then they will just put a car in that. You're creating a little parking.
That's all right.
You're creating a parking
But
thing.
I mean.
That's
I-
As long
okay,
as you
but-
have
The
a
other thing it
recess.
does is that for the same size house, you're pushing the whole, you end up pushing a
It all
significant
back.
portion of the house farther back.
Yes.
okay,
Well,
4
So
feet.
you-
And-
So what do you want to,
It's
make
more-
it 4 feet?
4 feet.
As
Move
long as
on.
it's recessed, 4
Again, you
feet.
guys are going to debate this anyway at the
And
planning board.
so,
let's just
Michael,
keep going.
With regards to the site plan review, could this be something that might float into the minor site?
No, we're not allowed under state law to review, well, we're not allowed to review 2-family, but 3 or 4 could be.
Yeah.
Site could be minor site. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, the reality is if you push it back, you're going to be reducing the living space, because what you have in those units that have the parking right there on the bottom, they have a garage, and they go in, and then behind that is storage space. And so you're
Or
going
a
to basically
backyard.
be.
a
Or
green
living room.
space, or
You
a
know
deck,
what,
or a
Google,
living
I
No,
would
I'm
ask you
talking
then.
inside the building.
Google,
I think it's usually a
Google-
bedroom.
We know.
Google snout houses.
I don't have a
okay?
problem
Just
with
Google it.
It's subjective.
It is subject.
It's
It's-
subjective, and it's going to be subjective to the single-family person
Well,
who's
what-
objecting to this new thing next door.
Where they
It look-
where their garage actually
That's
sits right
okay.
next
Their
to
garage
it.
sits-
Single family.
How about
That's the
this?
standard. Single family, there's no review.
How about-
Duplexes, there are when you
What
put
if-
them in a single family.
what if
That's
we
the-
shouldn't?
That's the cultural.
Wait. Are we saying that we would have to review that if we had a
Not in a
duplex
No,
in
you
the
can't,
RA?
you can't
Not a
review
duplex.
duplex.
The architectural standard would apply to the duplex, but there's be no review.
What if we left it out and then see what happens during public comment?
They're
This
not
is
gonna
a,
know.
this
You
is.
know what? The public isn't going to know to recess
Yeah,
the
they
garage.
won't know.
It's Michael's pet peeve. is
Well,
where
it's not my
it is.
pet peeve. If you look up Google snout houses and look at, Al's talking about form-based code, parking and garages is the number one objection.
For sure.
If you're putting a duplex next to my single-family house. I don't want to see, 2 garage doors right in the middle of a single-story duplex. I don't want to see a row of, most prominent thing is the garage is sticking out. They call those snout houses.
I had
You know,
that in
it's
my house
not,
in
if you want to build
California, and I had a
duplexes,
garage and loved
then follow a few rules. Fit into the neighborhood. It's not difficult.
All right,
So you guys are going to debate.
We'll see what
this
happens.
more.
We'll,
So let's keep
and
going.
we'll bring in some visual stuff, and we will look at it at the planning board. So let's get into the, where is the,
And then 5 was the other one that you were
Right.
debating.
The parking.
I think you
Which
are
is related.
absolutely dead on with not wanting to have a parking lot on the residential street with, I mean, it's not just the residents, it's their guests. 5 houses.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
'cause it
Do
was
we have
forward.
the,
It's nice.
the dimensions? You sent that, right?
Oh, dimensions of what?
The dimensions.
It's at the bottom, isn't it?
Oh,
It's
table
not on-
of dimensions?
Oh, it's behind this one, yeah. It's behind
Oh, you didn't
this
go
one.
over, I don't think you went over the
No,
table
I-
of dimensions yet,
I,
right?
No,
I
that's where
didn't,
we're at.
yeah, so I couldn't
Right,
find
here
it,
it
I
is.
didn't go, didn't scroll far enough. So let's go over that.
Wait, so are you okay with 5? Leave it to the planning board?
Yeah.
I
Also?
don't
Yeah.
understand beyond.
Oh, what?
The parking areas must be beyond.
Oh,
Means it has to be on the side or
further
the
back.
For anything.
Or we
So
call it-
it could be 10 feet set in from the facade?
Well, actually, we have a term that deals with it, a definition, front court, which that's
So-
what we mean. It
Well, you
may
have-
not be
you have your
situated in the
street.
front court.
You have the front of the building,
Yeah.
and we're saying your parking for a 3 or 4 family, 3 or 4 unit, has to be behind this row here. So it'd have to be on
But
the
it
side
could-
or in the
Yeah,
back.
so it'd be very
Mine
visible
look
if you
very
had it
similar.
like that.
Yeah.
It was only 2 cars.
And
It
do we
also
want it
means,
very...
it also means you'd have to bring your driveway out here and then allow enough room.
To
So,
turn around, but you don't
or
want
you put it up here and you have garage, or these might be garages, so you go in and you have the garage doors facing that way.
So beyond enables to have a whole
We
bunch
have a
of-
definition, front court. I'll use that instead.
So this would enable them to have a row of parking at the side of the building then?
Right.
Okay.
But not in the front. Okay, now we're on to table of dimensions, which is what almost
The
got
idea is to maintain
this
your
housing
front
task
yard.
force stoned in the village square when we
For
first
sure.
brought up things that are really rather similar
Pollinated
to what we're doing now.
vegetation in the front yard.
Smaller lots are fine. Okay,
There's a really cute home in South Berwick that's for sale right now with a lot size of 7,400, just as an FYI.
Wow.
well, we
Built in
have,
1950 something.
we have many, in Residence A, we have many that are below 10,000, and they are homes. So we're
Anyway.
basically,
I think we're at a good spot though
yeah,
in terms
Yeah.
of,
those are all good, those changes?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the one that I think that, particularly since you guys are working on the conservation subdivision stuff, the rural areas, and that it was in Concord that bothered me is where we were gonna do everything at like 2 acres. It just, I keep it big and you guys figure out the conservation.
And the
side.
conservation subdivision will be
Yeah,
able to bring it down to a
exactly.
smaller density, but there's a
Yeah.
reason why people still like that, and honestly, if we change that, people are gonna freak out.
Yeah.
And it's not, I don't really think it's not a hill I'm choosing to die on, even though, at least not at this point, someday it may, but it is, however, economically discriminating.
I just think the 2 acre doesn't accomplish anything. And it's clear if you build something on 2 acres, what is it, at least $1 million?
What difference does it make?
It's
Yeah.
gonna be so expensive. It doesn't accomplish anything.
still
I
a
think
$500,000
what you guys are trying
just
to
for the
accomplish in
land.
the conservation subdivision and that cluster kind of thing is such a better idea, so just leave it, go where
rate,
you're going.
yeah, and going rate for 3 acres at $250,000 per acre now,
you see there was a one lot.
$750,000 in land.
Did you see the house that sold? It was right along the Garish development. It's the one that was at the corner, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. It probably was a summer home back in the
Yeah.
Back in
30s
the
or
day.
something. I think it sold for $250,000. Of course, the house has been torn down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
bought
have
the
a
land.
building permit in for,
yeah.
and that's going to be like a $500,000 just to build the house on
Yeah.
0.6 acres. So, yeah,
They got it for the land.
they got it for the land.
got it at the price of
Exactly,
land.
and they got it for the price of land, 0.6 acres for over.
But then they had to pay for the tear down, but they'd have to pay for the
They're
opening
paying
up
for
the
the
land.
tear-
But it's
yeah.
already been cleared, so
Yep, so it's,
they'll get what
that's
they want.
why you have to keep shrinking these lot sizes,
Mm-hmm.
and they could have put 2 houses there,
Yeah, but we didn't,
but they can't now.
and it may not have mattered, but,
Maybe not,
Anyways.
it's a choice.
So the next one,
They probably actually got it at discounted because the tear down price was built into the discount.
That and the fact that it probably has, it's going to have a septic, because those have septics right there, unless they can get a permit to go across the street.
Isn't there, but You said it's right at the corner. Which corner?
Oh, it's on Ambler.
Ambler Corner.
So
it's
Garish-
farther
Garish-
down.
Ambler
not
and
the
Garish
first-
or Ambler and Canny?
Ambler
the
and
other way.
Canny.
Yeah, in that
Well,
neighborhood.
they're not that far from sewer.
Well, they could extend it themselves if they want.
It's a long
But I
way.
think it's going to be pressure
Anyway,
there.
Anyway.
Or maybe it's gravity there.
You know
Sorry,
what?
sorry for diverting.
we have a
My
lot
apologies.
of, a bunch of stuff, all multi-unit housing, all this stuff is all crossed out, right? All good?
Yep.
So, oh,
Yeah, all this multi-housing allowed non-residential, all this is crossed out. We're going to have an understanding as to why we did all that.
oh wait, multi-unit. Oh, we just had a basic lot, minimum lot size
Yeah,
for everything.
yeah, we don't,
Yeah.
and we're just getting rid of all that.
I missed your question.
We're going to need some explanations as to why that is.
Yeah.
What was our,
We're biased against
But we're
drive-throughs.
controlling it in the minimum lot area, so.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just got minimum lot size, but minimum
That'd
lot
be a
area
short-term
per
rental.
dwelling unit.
Just worry
Per
about the
dwelling
design,
unit.
like you said, worry about the
Yeah.
design, not the lot size. And
Yeah.
just because they're different doesn't mean
Yeah.
that they can't fit in
It'll
the same
fit.
space.
Yeah. All right, so a minimum lot area,
Page 2,
we
short-term rental.
Shrunk it
Special exception.
considerably.
considerably.
Per dwelling unit, which is good.
But
We
that's
want-
minimum lot area in per dwelling unit.
Perfect.
We want this, yeah, this
And
is
that's
good.
fine, it's a 2,500, that's 25, that's huge.
Yeah.
What's the note two?
5,000 square foot house?
What's the note two on RC?
That's the,
Is that 8?
okay. You have here to be addressed separately, usable area per dwelling unit in a conservation subdivision, so that's going to be going under the conservation subdivision rules. We don't have to look at that. Minimum lot frontage, we cut that down, and the state had something to say about that too, did it go through?
I don't know if it'll go through. I mean, the state was like, we were playing, like, it's like with the roulette wheel with frontage.
They were just
We were
throwing-
like messing around. I don't know.
It got-
What you have up there is fine.
It got tabled, but
Yeah.
it might come back in conference.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just leave this.
I think you're fine the way you have
Yeah.
it though.
And
we
minimum
come up
side
with these
setbacks, we
numbers?
brought that down.
No idea.
Really?
Wait, Judith has a question.
I don't know. I don't
How the
know.
hell-
It's
Wait,
a
you
really
want-
great question.
No,
No,
you
he's talking
debated
about
all
that, I think.
these in
Oh,
detail.
No, I thought you meant like the lot frontage.
Oh, all of these?
In Concord, I have no idea how we were coming up with it. It was disturbingly random, and we were coming up. Everybody was coming up with a bunch of different numbers and just kind of throwing them out there. And I was
It
like,
seems ridiculous.
okay, maybe it's a good time to take a pause if we're doing that because it's
Right.
not a good idea. But I think is rational. It's like so. It's
And the
the best
minimum
I can
side-
say.
If you have two streets
Yes.
and the buildings have 20-foot setbacks, the buildings would be 40 feet apart.
Yes.
Is that what we are advocating? This is like California. This is like,
It's dense housing.
I think like where you
It's
called
honestly,
affordable housing.
where's your pollinator garden going to go?
to
Well, it
In the
in my
back.
side yard.
where
I
you have sewer and water, you're going to want to go dense, and as long as you can, as long as you can
it's in-
accommodate
My fence,
it,
I
because
20 feet.
that's why you put sewer and water there in the first place. So
And
you're going to
it's-
harness the density of your sewer and water. The rest of your places, you're going to run into having to do septic, and that will make it less practical to do that. So where you can do density, do density.
This is basically talking about a multifamily building. This is talking about, right? When we're talking about structures that are 20 feet apart or 40 feet apart, it's
What's their side
basically a
setback?
multifamily
No.
No,
building.
Some of our lots-
It's-
this is
You
what
you
the,
gotta keep in mind, especially when you get out on Durham Point Road, a lot of the lots are half wet. Sometimes you'll get a lot where is like a big fist right in the middle of your lot, and you only your buildable areas are scrunched to the
Okay.
side. So you need to allow that flexibility for someone to say, I gotta come in, I gotta bring my driveway around this wetland and put this house back here, but because I'm bringing the driveway in this way, I'm going to keep it closer to that side of my property,
So this is a setback from what?
this property line.
Yeah.
the side
From the
setback.
property line. So, but when you're not looking at areas like that, we're talking in town, right? Resident A?
This is
A?
B, no.
Yeah,
B
A
is
would be
20.
like Faculty Madbury
A
Road.
is 20.
Yeah. so
We are
you're gonna
changing A.
Cram those buildings in 40 feet
We're
apart?
not changing A.
That's
A is
what they
already
are
just
now. You
20.
Go down Madbury Road, half of those buildings on the east as you go up the road are only 40 feet apart.
That's appalling.
No, it's not.
That is,
It's fine.
that is
called
one of
townhousing.
the classic,
I don't
In
have a-
town.
most, best looking parts of town.
This is what happens with somebody whose minimum lot size is 100 acres.
Well, we don't have enough land for that, so.
We,
Okay,
Yeah, we only have so
Getting
much
A lot of people
buildable
by,
land.
but you are going to open a few boarding houses, right?
She's talking about doing drive-through boarding houses,
Totally.
Drive-through short-term rentals.
which I think qualifies as short-term rentals for us.
Yeah.
That's what's
I'm not
gonna,
sure
that's
that
what's
it
gonna
is.
build up the clientele.
it's the choice of, it's not going to, yeah, I think it's actually nice because considering what the types of people that will end up in some of those places, and they won't be students, but it'd be a nice environment for, a battered women's shelter or, coming out of a drug addiction or something like, this would be a nice environment rather than sticking them in the middle of the city. But, I'm just saying, we can't be biased or bigoted.
That's, nothing's changed there.
And we're,
I don't like where this is
And we're at
going.
the notes. Oh, there it is, there's 8.
You're the
we're
man.
actually gonna manage to get through something in one session.
All right.
That's good.
So we got rid of senior
Even with
housing, we got
40,
C
20
RSA for
minutes.
special density requirements for workforce housing. And the density figures are given for every district, including those who are multi-unit residential is not allowed. These figures apply in situations where any multi-unit residential use legally exists, such as pre-existing
Yeah.
non-conforming, or, yeah.
So back to the frontage stuff, I'll know, to your point, Paul, if they do kind of, it comes back.
If it happens, it happens.
I'll know in 2 weeks, I'll let you know.
And
but
then it'll be a mute point.
I'll
for
Oh,
us.
believe me, I'm watching. I'm reading the paper every morning. And
I think some of them, though, they're thinking about the towns that currently only have like 5-acre minimums and
Totally.
things. So
Yeah.
when they say, oh, we're gonna cut
No.
this down, and it's like, yeah, but those
To-
are still bigger than what we have.
One of the arguments about that, though, that came up during the SRPC meeting, all right? Northwood has one of the most dangerous stretches of road, all right? And it's because you have so many driveways coming out on Route 4 directly.
I've heard this in
And,
Concord, too.
and if you have a road like that and you keep putting more and more driveways on
Yeah.
it, I mean, almost all the accidents are happening because somebody's trying to pull in or pull off the road.
Yeah, I heard the same thing in Concord too, that the driveway cuts, just so many driveway cuts, it's like crazy, so. But anyway, I'll know in 2 weeks, I'll let
It's
you know.
different than being on a road like Emerson
But
or,
and that becomes one of
where-
the issues of one-size-fits-all solutions.
Exactly.
Which is what we
Yeah.
don't need.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot different depending on what road you're on.
Yeah, anyway, I didn't
That's
mean
why
to-
it's like, so many of these things should be situational.
Yes,
But,
Variances.
But gosh,
But
that
the
makes,
problem
that's-
is
that
that-
takes too much work to actually put in.
well, and that's the thing.
See, that's- it's
when
lazy
you make-
laws sometimes.
When, that's, the whole idea behind local control is it's situational.
yeah,
Right? But you can't abuse it. Somebody has to oversee and monitor the abuse,
You go-
and it can't be overly expensive.
Wait, before you go.
Sorry.
I think this is Taylor's last meeting, right?
It is. That's why I was
Well,
there.
Taylor's going up, could
You're going
Taylor
to
could tell us
Colorado?
where?
I'm going to law school in Denver.
oh, cool,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Moving to
Boy, you're
Denver.
gonna be able to afford a house in Denver.
Absolutely not.
Not
Absolutely
even,
not.
maybe
No.
a
Taylor,
studio.
thank you so much.
Well,
Yeah, thanks for
being
having me.
here.
It's been really a joy.
Good luck, you're gonna have a great time in
I'm
Denver.
excited. I'm actually
Yeah.
going to interview. We're going to interview people
Where
for my
in
job
Denver?
all after.
Oh,
In
cool.
like kind of like central Denver, University of Denver, Sturm College of
Yeah.
Law. So it's kind of like if you're looking at a map of Denver, it's like the southern central part of Denver.
Right on,
I
you
love
got, you
Denver.
got
So
nothing
much fun.
but flat
I had a friend
Yeah.
who lived in the
and
burbs right
then
at
big
the
old
edge.
mountains.
I'm excited.
When do you leave?
I leave at the end of July, but my last day with the Workforce Housing Coalition is the last Friday of June. So I hope you'll all come to our spring policy session.
Yeah.
Yes, I have it on my, I've already applied.
I'm really
for it.
excited about it. I think it'll be
Yeah.
a lot of fun. It's the 24th, July 24th
Yeah.
in the morning at Service Credit Union.
Yeah.
It's already on my
I
calendar.
think it will be really great. And that will kind of be, that's my final big event.
Your last
with-
hurrah.
That's my last hurrah, yes. Yeah, so thank you. I appreciate. I didn't mean to. I have to run because we are going to interview someone, and I'm going to be late. if
Well,
I don't
congratulations.
Run away,
and-
but
You made it through this far.
Yes.
yeah.
Best wishes.
Awesome.
You're
Good luck.
gonna do great. You're
Thank
gonna
you.
do great.
And someone will come into my role and probably come and sit
Yeah.
like I do. and
Just as
occasionally
great
say
as you,
things.
yeah.
But it's been really great working with you all, so I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But with that, we do want to discuss something really quick, so can we move this now to planning board?
Sure.
Yeah, you should have a
Oh,
vote.
we should vote.
Can we have a
I make a
motion?
motion that we, as amended, we send the table of uses and the, what is this?
Proposed zoning amendments.
Proposed zoning amendments to the planning board.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we can give that to the
Oh,
planning board.
was that unanimous?
Yes, it
Yes.
was unanimous. Send that to planning board and give them something to do.
Over the summer.
Yeah. So that's good. Now, the other thing we wanted to discuss, Michael, you brought something up and Paul, you were talking about it earlier before the meeting as to something we wanted to bring up about, now I can't.
You had
remember.
mentioned something to me about having, that a particular project would be a good thing for the Housing Task Force to pick up after we did this.
What was that?
That's what I was trying to remember.
A particular project?
But it might have been something with the RA infill. Remember how you wanted to take,
No, I don't.
or, because we were talking about what to do with some of these,
As part of conservation subdivision?
well, instead of, but yeah. Because we have some of the properties in the RA that would have a lot of potential, that are larger, that, your classic infill of putting a four-family on there just it would be a sad thing to
Oh,
see.
you mean like allowing something like a PUD or something?
That might have been it. Maybe it was extending a PUD options for
that type.
For that type of purpose. That may well have been it.
Well, maybe you could think about it and bring it up at the planning board meeting
Yeah,
on
or
Wednesday.
maybe when you take out the PUD again, you could think about that.
Well, that is something we need to actually discuss
Well,
because.
I bring that because planning board right now doesn't have cycles for that.
Doesn't have what?
Cycles
Time.
to be thinking about anything like that, which is why it'd be something that might be useful for the Housing Task Force to.
Well, with
look
that
at. Someone else
said,
to pick
we're
up.
supposed to be finishing up as far as what the council said. So I think we need to ask the council what they would like us to do from here on.
Yeah.
And so they are actually going to be, the council will be getting the multifamily thing, right, at the, what meeting? Next meeting or?
You mean the
At
two
the
other
planning
zoning
board,
things?
yeah, the planning
Yeah,
board.
they're getting it next Monday.
Okay, so I'm wondering if you could discuss with Todd and council.
Yeah, I'll
you
bring
could,
it up.
Bring it up as to what we did have like a deadline that was given to us by the council, and we have just done this. We could maybe ask the council what they would like us to do going forward. Is there any changes they would like us to make as to who we are? Do they think we're good and done? What do they want and what would be, they could maybe start thinking about it. Because I don't really know what the next step is
Yeah.
because
Well,
of that.
You at an earlier meeting went through your whole charge and have responses. I'll put that together and
Yeah.
send it to you. I think the council might appreciate your suggestions on that point. What would you like to do? Do you think you have more work? Should you disband? Should you change?
Well, I mean, one actually is what Judith brought up at the very beginning of the meeting, to be completely candid. It's like I felt like, especially when we did this, we got deeply into the minutia of zoning. And, maybe kind of explaining where we are, and maybe that's a good thing for us right now. I mean, we don't have anything time sensitive that we're handing off to somebody right now. And if we could go back to what was kind of our earliest thing, was like the outreach, talking about this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, and spend a little bit of time on that. I think that would be-
Social media. We have to come up with something new. I was involved with the effort to fund the
Sorry.
replacement of the, or the repair of the steeple on the community church, it totally bombed because of the outreach. And I think we need to start using some innovative thinking on how to get more outreach.
Well, I would,
I think we
I-
should,
yeah.
anyway, go.
I would agree to some extent, but I don't really know how that would be, and I'm really not sure. There's a lot of people that don't show up at all, which in me, it just means like, if you're not coming out to speak against something, then you don't, it doesn't matter. And I think we have a tendency to speak to a very small amount of people in this town, and no offense to anyone, and they are, and I respect them all, and they are very well-meaning. However, some of their visions are a bit outdated, and the
Ill-informed.
the ill-informed, and the conditions on the ground are not the same anymore. And more importantly, the impact that they have had on our zoning has been catastrophic. We
Well,
cannot.
I have two ideas. If you want to get people to a meeting, first of all, ice cream.
I was gonna
Ice
say,
cream
bring
sundaes.
cookies.
For sure.
The
Ice
second
cream
one
social.
is create a horrendous proposal.
No.
I've done
No.
both, I've done the
Yeah, we've
last
done
one.
that.
I like the ice cream idea better than the
We
horrendous
already have,
proposal.
I could say, you know what we could do? We could first of all put it out there. We could maybe ask Todd to say, there's been a lot of these different things. The Housing Task Force is willing to have a question and answer time, and this is it. Because the reality is, there's only so many ways we can communicate to the public.
Yeah.
We, you know what I mean? And to make it communication to the public. So if you are not reading your Friday updates, if you are not being proactive in your community, then you can't complain when something changes and you don't like it. We need you to read it. You can't just say, I didn't know about it, and I'm going on vacation, and it's summer. I'm sorry, but that is just not, I'm sorry, that's just not.
You got
that's-
Zoom. You've
a
got-
reason.
That is never going to work. We
Well-
have to develop another set of incentives.
I mean,
Why?
It won't change.
Oh.
I
Now
wanted to
there's a
write
thought.
something up. I just
Why?
had the time.
Explain to me why.
But why?
If you've already gone this far and they choose to be ignorant, why do we keep trying?
Yeah, they
Because we
are.
have to go to the dump every week.
Well, you know, you can tell them, listen, this is what's been done already. And I hear what you're saying, but I'm also hearing that that is not actually what's happening. And we are getting complaints from people that just want to say, this is a terrible thing. And it's like, you know, one
It's the
particular
deniers
gentleman
who are
making
doing all
statements.
the noise at this point.
making statements
They've
that
heard
are
it,
blatantly
they
lies.
choose
I
not to
want-
believe it and to
I
deny
want
it.
to be able to
And
Heather.
just challenge the fact that they just choose not to believe what we say.
Okay, I want
Heather.
just two things. One, if they're complaining about downtown, that's town council.
Yep.
They initiated, we're driving it.
Yep.
We see some concerns in those areas.
Yep.
It's all about affordability for the town
Yep.
and rejuvenating, you know, a dying downtown.
Yes.
That isn't the housing
Oh,
task force.
don't use that term.
I'm sorry.
Don't use that, please. Don't
Okay,
use
I
that
won't.
term.
I'm that's
Floundering.
out of mind, it's floundering.
Don't,
Somnolent.
please,
The
don't use
ice
those
cream
terms.
place is great, though. Anyway,
Okay.
we have some
It is
buildings
fun.
that need to be rehabilitated or whatever. We need incentives for the business owners of downtown to do things. That's really being driven out of the town.